In this particular week, we are going to tackle half of risk management, the
Half.
basics. Yeah, here we are going to move from basic to intermediate part of risk management. That's our hope by the end of this week.
Okay.
All right. Um,
Yes.
One thing I wanted to point out was that, your performance is actually outstanding. Uh,
Mhm.
Benchmarking with other students, I found a um, top notch or top ranked student for the SBL, and your fears are just, maybe an exercise of caution or maybe prudence, but you are almost there. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Now it gives me
You know
some
what?
confidence because I was this close to saying no.
You mustn't quit.
Let
We are
me.
almost through. We are almost through with the syllabus. So do not quit. There's no reason for you to quit. All right?
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
definitely no reason.
All
Um,
right.
so we are going to tackle an introduction to risk, but it's not really an introduction because what we will be um, involved in would be the basics as well as the applications of risk management. So
Okay.
I want you to tell me what comes into your mind whenever you hear the word risk. What happens? What do what's your view towards a risk, or what do you understand by the term risk?
I think risk is a probability of an outcome either coming into your favor or against your favor.
Okay, it could be in your favor. Wonderful, right?
Risk, yes, risk can be good. Taking a
Yeah, I
risk.
like that. I like that. Yes, that's the perspective at strategic business leader level. Risk is not always bad
Mm.
because if you do not take risk, then you remain the way you are forever.
Yes, yes.
If you didn't take some risk some time ago, maybe today you were not going to be called Miss. I do not know, your husband's name, but
Yes,
if you didn't take that risk, you wouldn't be
yes,
married by now. If you didn't
yes,
take some risk, maybe you wouldn't have finished A level or even gone to university. But you took some
yes,
risk. While
yes,
others were asleep, you decided to extend some reading time to ensure that you pass that A level, you pass that degree program, and so forth. That was
mm,
risk. That was risk taking.
okay.
Okay.
Today you can
Now,
see me, and
hello.
today you can see me.
Yes, I can see you. I can see that Otilia is
Okay.
so beautiful.
Yeah. Because I'm using the phone. I think laptop yangu yakafa camera.
Okay, okay, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay.
And are you seeing me as well?
Yes, I am.
That's great. Now, on the screen, there are two pictures we want to discuss about these pictures. They are actually motion pictures. They are videos. All right. So
Okay.
I'll first play a video on the right side. I'm sure you can see those guys,
Mm-hmm.
whatever they are doing, right?
Yeah.
It's just a
Yes.
short clip. Okay.
Okay.
For our discussion, I think that's fine. Um, would you allow your husband to venture into that sport?
No, no,
Why not?
no.
Why not?
Because it is dangerous. The probability of him crashing and dying on impact is very, very high.
Yes, yes. I got you. I got you. Okay. Now, in risk management, I think by the end of this lecture, you would actually be the first person to allow your husband to join that sport. Because
Mm.
I mean, maybe you might be indifferent, but you would have shifted this initial position that, oh, please do not do that because it's so risky or it's so dangerous.
Mm. Mm.
Sometimes the dangerous things are the things that matter, are the things that
Mm.
make us giants in economics. All right. Those guys, soon after that display, they were actually among the highest paid athletes in the world.
Wow.
Uh,
Okay.
yeah, but I understand your worry that life cannot be insured. Once you mess it up, you are gone
Mm.
totally. But
Yes.
on the upside, once you make it, you have made it for good.
Yeah.
You understand?
There is no in between. Yes.
Either you fail or you become the best.
Yes.
Okay, good. Let us have a look at this other video. There is a woman standing, and the husband is skying there. I do not know, I mean, the exact terminology they use. The husband is in the
Mm.
parachute, as you can see.
Mm. Mm. Yes.
All right. And the woman and the kid are just watching the husband doing whatever he's doing. Now, tell me,
Mm.
if you were that lady and your kid watching your husband, what would be your prayer?
That my kid does not want to try it out.
Or you would only be praying that your kid shouldn't imitate his father.
And the father should not crash.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, yes. And you see, the wife there was actually calling out, John, please be careful. All right,
Mm.
sounds like that.
Mm.
Yeah, that's what risk managers would be doing. They'll be monitoring what you guys will be doing and so forth, whether you are not going to increase the speed of the parachute and so forth, stuff like that. You would put the parachute under control and so forth. You would also
Mm.
be monitoring the direction of the wind and so forth. That's what the
Mm-hmm.
risk manager would be doing. All of these
Okay.
videos, I mean, both of these videos are telling us one thing: if you want enjoyment, there's a particular risk you're going to take for you to enjoy. Like, for example, enjoying the parachute driving or piloting, something like that. He had to take
Mm-hmm.
some risk. All right. If he doesn't
Mm.
do that, he's not going to forgive himself. He would always be regretting that, oh, if I had done that, maybe I would have reached my self esteem, or I would have reached my self actualization. So I had to do it. I've done everything. I've built homes. I've given money to the poor. I've contributed to the change, but I'm not yet satisfied until I climb, Mount Everest using my parachute.
Mm.
That's something that happens, isn't it? So,
Yes.
even if we come to that person and tell him, hey, man, just keep on piling your monies in the bank, he's not going to be happy. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
But the
Yes.
advice we could give him is that you need to wear your helmet, please. You need to
Mm.
attend parachute driving lessons first. You need
Mm.
to ensure that your life assurance is up to date, with the Nyarados and with the whatever, the old mutual guys.
Mm.
Maybe that's the advice we could get. Because,
Yeah.
risk management, um, for the purpose of this exam, should be tailored to the situation. Okay?
Okay. Mm.
Don't just come with a textbook risk management. I mean, or mitigation strategies, risk mitigation strategies from the textbook that says you need to take calculated risk, you need to be careful, you need to do this. Sometimes, for example, other people, like for example, people who stay in your area, there's these, oh my God, I forgot the Sorbonne Parks, whatever. Those guys, the big, or the high-end leafy suburbs there. If you tell them that you need to be careful, you must not consume over $100 a month of grocery, they'll just laugh at you. You understand? Why?
Yes.
Because to them, that's no longer what they call risk or overspending. Let me just say overspending. But if you go to Magwegwe, maybe Magwegwe North, and tell somebody you should, I mean, chop at least $500 a month, they would call you crazy. They would say, maybe you are just being pompous, or you are not
Showing
considerate.
off.
Yeah, you are
You're
just
showing
showing
off.
off, something like that. So risk management, like I said, whether it's the positive side or the negative side, you need to tailor it with the situation prevailing or presented to you. You
Okay.
understand? Good. Now, let's move on to the next issue there. The objectives of this, we have already spoken about them, but indirectly. The first thing we need to do is to ensure that we align organizational strategy with risk management. And in the previous week, we talked about strategy at length. We almost did everything
Yes.
from from strategy development to strategy execution. We did almost everything, and I want you to just as a recap of the strategic management process. We said that there was an issue of position analysis, so there should be strategic position. All right, strategic position. There should be strategic choice and strategic what? Execution, strategic action.
Implementation.
Is it action
Action, implementation, you
or
gave me
implementation,
both.
right? Strategic implementation, right? Those are the three things we talked about. But you discover that, and I'm sure, and I was happy when I was reading your assignment, that you managed to pick out certain theories which were relevant, and you did not just throw the theories in the assignment, but you showed me that you were using them. For example, at strategic position, we do have a lot of theories we could actually rely on. For example, the Pasteur,
The SWOT.
Pasteur, the SWOT, the value chain, you know, all these. Sometimes the value chain could also be used as strategic choice, could be used as strategic option. But when you are explaining something, for example, the value chain, we want to understand if whatever we are doing is actually going to ensure that our supply chains are going to be beneficial. What are we doing currently? What is the status of our value chain? That's position analysis. Are we together?
Yes.
Then what are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? That's what, that's also position analysis. Pastor, what is the outlook of the external environment with regards to our operations? Is the legislation still favorable? Or sometimes it is no longer that? Or are we doing something that is, welcomed by the society? That's position analysis. All right. Then a strategic choice. Strategic choice also looked at Porter's five forces. And that five forces again can also be used at strategic position. Do you get it? All those
Yeah.
things. Anyway, I wanted just to bring about the aspect of strategy. But now, This week, we'll be looking at marrying strategy with risk management. They should be married.
Okay.
Organizational strategy and risk management should be married. They shouldn't be divorced or run parallel. They should be embedded. When you are crafting your strategy, always think of risk. So when you are looking at a scenario, always think of the risk and how those risks are being managed.
Okay.
For example, we are going to open 3 branches in the next 3 years. You as a strategist, as a risk manager, you ask yourself, is that going to happen? Looking at our cash flows, looking at our gearing, how geared are we? Are we going to get some external finance? Okay, suppose we get that external finance, at what cost? What is going to happen to the, return on shareholder wealth? Because as the interest rates are going to, the interest cost, the finance costs are going to rise. What is going to be the remaining profitability after those interest costs? What will happen to our earnings per share? All those things have to be considered. The other objective is to deconstruct the COSO enterprise risk management cube and its application. You need to know this COSO, the COSO ERM framework.
Okay.
Mama this lecture. Then we need to be able to categorize risks into strategic versus operational and evaluate environmental or climate impacts. Remember the issue of sustainability. Sakambo zvitaura nezvazvo izvi kuti haugone kubuda muexam usina kutaura nezvesustainability, usina kutaura nezvemaethics. Hatina here kuzvitaura. Hello?
Yes, you were gone.
I'm the one who was gone, or maybe it was you.
You were gone.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So let me reshare again. I'm sorry I took much of the time speaking here, and we couldn't move. I was hoping that we were going to, to be on the run. But am I being understood?
Yes.
Please tell
Yes,
me.
you are. Yes, you are being understood. After this, I rewatch your lecture again, making notes. So it's actually helpful.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Now, there is this framework. I'm sure you met it sometime during your undergraduate studies. The aspect of TARA, the TARA framework, to assess probability and severity. Remember, you said in your definition of risk that it was the probability that an event was going to occur and so forth.
Yes.
Can I say? So the aspect of probability and severity has to be considered whenever we are doing risk management. It could be probable that something is going to happen, but how severe is it if it happens? What are the impacts? Is that clear? Great. Then there is the last objective here is we should be able to link a risk appetite to corporate governance frameworks. When we are talking of risk appetite, we are talking of the extent to which we can accept or tolerate risk. What is our general attitude towards risk? All right. How much of the risk are we ready to consider or to accept or to take? That's the risk appetite, isn't it? All right. That's a board. Okay. In the board, we expect your boards to discuss risk and strategy, because we said by the end of the day, risk and strategy should be married. That's the idea. They shouldn't be divorced from one another. They need to be together all the time. When your strategy is crafted um, against the risk or the risk focus, then by the end of the day, you discover that you come up with a good strategy, but that is not going to be implemented, or that is going to be impossible to implement. Why? Because the risk and strategy will be conflicting. Okay. Let's move on to the next issue there. All right. This next issue, ma'am, risk strategy and organizational strategy. There is a direct reciprocal relationship between an organization's overall strategy and its risk strategy. We have already spoken about this issue, but here we want to dissect or to break it down. Now, at strategy setting, we should have a belief that to generate higher returns or to have some competitive advantage, a business must accept risk. Avoiding all risk leads to a follow the leader approach and stagnation. So, like I said, if you still remember on those metaphorical videos, we said that sometimes certain enjoyments are only possible with the level of risk which we tolerate to happen. If you don't take that risk, you're not going to enjoy that extent of progress or enjoyment. Is that clear?
Yes.
Now, there is a guy there on the screen. This guy, you can see that it is impossible that he could consume this large bottle of soda. But because he knows that the soda is going to benefit him in the longer term, he has to ensure that he sacrifices his leg to pour the soda. This is the idea of, you need to exert or to invest in certain things for you to enjoy the longer term benefits of them or from them. So we need to see risk as a positive advantage for our growth. Avoiding all risk leads to a follow the leader approach and stagnation. We're not going to move. We'll remain where we are if we do not follow. If we do not take some of the risks. The idea of following the leader approach, this one is synonymous in those with those organizations where I remember when we talked of culture, the aspect of culture. Remember, we said that there were certain organizations where the leader would be wielding much powers that nobody can have the stamina to ask them why they are doing A, B, C, D. In those organizations. Hello?
Oh, I said the power culture.
Yes, in the power culture. Yeah, in those organizations, the subordinates cannot tell the leader what to do. And in the sense or in the mind or perspective of risk management, you could tell that there is a danger in there. There is a weakness or vulnerability in their risk management. Yeah, because they won't be prepared to take risks. They are too conservative. They just have to wait upon the leader. So even if the subordinates see other risks elsewhere, they are not going to tell the leader. Why? Because the leader's strategy is the only best, canvas to follow. All right. Upside versus downside. In a modern strategy views risk not just as a threat to be mitigated, not always as the downside of things, but as an opportunity to be seized. That is the upside way of thinking, the upside potential to enhance shareholder value. Sometimes what we think could be risky could actually be favorable in the eyes of shareholders. For example, if we invest in a mine enterprise, which is going to give us gold in 5 years' time, that will be the best way to go. But to management, it might seem as something not good. Why? Because they are paid on performance-related bonuses, which are short-term. So during the years when there is no gold, managers are not going to accept that. So they'll see the investment as a risk investment. But you, as a risk manager, you need to then evaluate to see what are the longer-term benefits of taking that route, and you advise accordingly. Then, alignment. The risk management strategy must support the business objectives. Like I said, it shouldn't be divorced from the organizational strategy. So risk management should actually, be embedded, should be married. So, for example, a low-cost strategy requires tight operational risk controls to prevent waste, while a differentiation strategy might accept higher entrepreneurial skills for innovation. So you need to understand the strategy of your organization. Are you a cost leader, or have you adopted a low-cost strategy? In a low-cost strategy, our worry is that everything we do should not exceed our cost budget. So we need to minimize costs whenever it is possible. All right, that's the strategy of that organization. So everything that is going to bring waste or wastage is going to be, put under control. That's the idea in those organizations. But when you're looking at other companies where differentiation matters, then you as the risk manager, you should also have that mindset that what matters is innovation, not cost cutting.
Cost cutting.
All right, good. That's the idea, madam. So risk is more than a theoretical concept. A common definition you are likely to use in the examination to please the markers or to impress them. You need to impress the markers. Risk is the variability of outcomes, the variability of an outcome. So it is fundamentally defined as the degree to which actual results might differ from expected results. I'm sure we did variance analysis some time ago. Okay. Variance analysis is actually another angle to look at risk, because we are simply saying once we have done our budget, there is a risk that the actual event is not going to be in line with the budget. There's going to be some variance. All right. So the degree to which the actual results will differ from expected results is actually a risk.
All right.
All right. So variance is another term for risk. Anyway,
Oh,
that's in terms of this definition. All right. So alignment cannot be overemphasized. There is always need for alignment. Why? Because risk can derail strategic success if there is lack of alignment between
alignment.
between high level strategy and day-to-day operational activity. So what managers and shop floor employees are doing down there should actually support the high level strategy. Is that clear?
Yes.
Now, the value chain principle is being brought back again. Every activity within an organization's value chain is affected by how risk is understood and addressed. Poor risk response undermines the entire strategic framework. So be it the primary, the what are called the primary what? Value
Sorry,
chain. Eh?
Mati?
We have got support functions and the primary what activities in the value chain, isn't it?
Yes.
Or you have forgotten? All right. An example of a primary activity is what? There is inbound logistics.
Yeah.
Hello, madam.
Mm.
Hello, hello. Okay, there's inbound logistics. There's what outbound. There is what they call it. Is it production? There's marketing. There is sales. All those things.
All right. Okay. That's one. Yes.
It's
Inbound
coming up.
logistics operations, outbound logistics,
Yes.
marketing, and sales, and
Mhm.
sales after sales.
Operation.
Mhm.
So we are saying all those segments of the value chain should always have strategy and risk at the core of their minds.
Mhm.
They should be worried about the risks and be able to identify those risks and treat those risks accordingly. Similarly, the support functions, the HR, the finance, all those guys,
I
IT,
see.
they also have to have the risk management mindset. Otherwise, if they do not do that, the organizations are likely to fail.
Mm.
All right. There was this, you know, was this video which I thought could be of interest. Uh-huh.
Oh,
Okay. Now let's talk about major risk categories. Um, Risks are the opportunities and dangers associated with uncertain future events. So you can see we are having various definitions about risk.
mm.
It's not
Mm.
static. There is not one size fits all definition of risk.
Mm.
Are we together?
Yes.
So what we have listed there is just some of the risks. But there are so many, and I want you to give me two which are not listed there. So let's first discuss what is there. There's what is called market risk. This one is derived from the sector, customers, or inability to obtain resources. Right? So market risk, something that relates to a particular sector where the market is not really going to function the way we think it will. For example, we want to introduce a product, but customers are not interested in it. That
Mm-hmm.
product is suffering market risk. Why? Because it cannot be sold. Are we together?
Okay.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Then there is what is called credit risk. This one is loss due to non-payment or late payment by customers. All right.
Okay.
So, yeah, non-payment or late payment by customers might lead to what is called credit risk. But also, even if we are the ones who should borrow, who should repay, if we fail to pay our suppliers, credit risk could also be there. If we fail to pay our funders, that would also create some credit risk because our credit rating, the credit rating would be affected. If we have got a legacy of not paying our funders or financiers, then credit risk is going to loom or to be sustained or to result. Why? Because our credit ratings will be, at a disadvantage.
Okay.
And also, when our customers, the receivables, are failing to pay us, there is credit risk. All right?
Okay.
Please bear this in mind because I understand there is a certain assignment question that is going to talk about this.
Okay.
Then liquidity risk. This one now is the inability to meet short-term cash outflows. All right. So you could say that they might be linked, but when we are failing to pay our suppliers or even financiers, all right, we might be doing so as a result of lack of liquidity. We don't have money to pay them. All right. That would be referred to liquidity risk because we do not have money. But at the same time, it will create what is called credit risk as our credit ratings, our rankings will suffer, or ratings will suffer. You understand?
Yes.
So they are related, but they are not the same. Then technological risk. This is loss of market due to competitors innovating faster or the R&D failure. All right. So you could also see that technological risk might also impact market risk where we produce things which are not going to be sold. All right.
And technological risk also touches on the issue of strategic drift.
Yes, strategic drift. Yeah, now they're now thinking because you see, this paper is integrative, So you need to be able to link all aspects of the syllabus, all aspects of strategy when you're looking at these things. Now, compliance, legal or compliance risk. Sometimes it is called regulatory risk. Regulatory.
Okay.
All right. These are the risks of fines, penalties, or litigations arising from breaching laws or regulations. You'll be arrested. Later seizure. Because this is why you see companies are not participating on the black market officially.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
For the fear that people, they will be arrested. In the aspect of environmental risk, all right, this one is very, very important. These are the aspects which we talked, and this counterpart, its other counterpart, the climate risk, they tend to touch that aspect of sustainability. So environmental risks are risks from pollution or restrictions on natural resources. Pollution or restrictions on natural resources. So when you talk of pollution, be it air pollution or even physical, waste pollution. And then climate risk This is acute. Extreme weather conditions like floods, fires, all right, and chronic risk. The chronic part, remember, they are in two folds, right? There is what is called acute climate risk, where we talk of extreme weather conditions like floods or fires. Then chronic,
The natural disasters.
long-term shifts in sea levels or temperature. When they become chronic now, they are now for a longer term, isn't it?
Long term.
So it depends, with the scenario in which, to which you will be responding. You need to keep an eye on the terminologies used. If the examiner simply says there were extreme weather conditions that month, then he is talking of acute. But if they say the area in which they want to open this new company has been having a history of high temperatures for the past decade, then that talks of chronic. Opens out too much terms, so make some. Don't just write as if you are writing an English storybook. Write as if you are an expert. But there are certain, there are certain technologies which will motivate man. They will impress them. Are we together? Now, risk management has got 4 processes which are very, very essential, which you need to understand. The first of that process is risk identification. We need to do what is called risk identification. Then risk assessment. Then there is what is called control assessment, and then a reporting. But we don't stop there. We also have to do what is called monitoring. These are the aspects. Reporting only. This one, we need to produce regular reports here and there. But usually this is what we normally talk about. If you're a risk manager, you need to be able to identify the risk. You need to be able to assess the risk. You should also be able to evaluate the controls. Controls to mitigate that risk have to be evaluated. If they are still operating as they should, then you need to report to management. And then after reporting, you then have to monitor to see what you have recommended is actually what is happening, or if there are any other improvements, or if the risk has now become worse. Is that clear? So basically, that's what we'll be talking about. So we'll continue to repeat and add and repeat all our material on this area. So what is risk identification? Obviously, it is the process of identifying the risks, isn't it? But for you to identify risk, you should be what is called a risk aware. You should be a risk aware individual. You should have a risk awareness, which is the ability to identify the risks associated with an activity or investment. If you're not risk aware, do you know that there are people who are not risk aware? They don't even care about
possible?
Yeah.
Is that possible?
Or let me just say, they do not have the consciousnness. They just have the natural instinct. Okay, some people just live. Remember, the late Oliver Mtukudzi song that Pane Vanorara Manerati. There are some people. Yeah, there are some people Yeah, they know risk is there, but they are not conscious about it.
Yeah, variponorara manera kisho.
You understand? So you just have to be aware of risk, always alert. So how do we, because you'll be given a scenario, right? And the examiner says, you know, give some advice on what ABC should do to ensure that they come up with maybe a risk register. All right, a risk register where they record and list all the risks which they are facing so that they know, or they put it formally, or they put them in a formal record, you understand, so that they know how to manage them, or they devote all the resources required to manage those risks. So these are the techniques which they should employ, all right, techniques to identify and manage risk. So the first one is brainstorming. What do you understand by brainstorming?
Brainstorming, it's, how do I put it? It's just initial thoughts without really linking it to the case study. Just initial thoughts on how to tackle something without really linking to the facts of the story, I think.
Yes, you are right. Usually brainstorming, all right, the team leader would throw ideas to the floor, would throw ideas to the floor. Or sometimes a team member does that, all right? A team member just come up with an idea uh, related to a particular subject matter, right? So they come up with, everyone just come up with some ideas and so forth, and then they discuss those ideas and until a final uh, option is chosen, isn't it?
Yeah.
So initially, we want to be having certain ideas which we think they are better. So ideas are just thrown to the table, and then we just have to pick on the best. That's brainstorming. Now, what about stakeholder interviews? This is the process where the risk manager or the concerned party, when I say the concerned party, I'm simply saying the manager in charge of risk, right? This person approaches, for example, line managers at an organization. They approach those other guys for their ideas and input. You understand?
Yes.
For ideas and input. And once they get that information, they then get back to their office and come up with, say, a risk register or some table for those risks which are going to matter. So stakeholder interviews is about approaching those relevant department heads for their input in the risk management or risk identification process. For example, if you are having a transport department, a production department, an HR department, for you to understand the risks that actually occur at those departments, you need to consult them. Otherwise, if you
Yeah.
remain theoretical, you're not going to come up with a sensible risk register. Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay, what about project plans? All right, suppose you want to do a construction project. The moment you review the plan, you could tell where risks are and where they aren't. So project plans, a review of those plans can tell you places where risks are highly likely to be.
Okay.
Then root cause analysis. Sometimes when a problem happens, the moment you go to the ground and understand what could have gone wrong, you would then come up with the risks and then start to create ways to stop those risks. For example, if there is a batch, a production batch that was faulty, the moment you go to the production department and have an analysis on the production, on this particular production, you would understand that all these faults were caused because there was an employee who was not part of the assembly line. You understand?
Okay, so can we say root cause analysis works hand in hand with stakeholder interviews?
Yes.
Can we? Okay.
Yeah. So root cause analysis is the process where the specialist or the risk manager gets to the ground, okay, to the process, to the origin of the problem and understand why it happened, to get all the facts so that we prevent similar incidents to occur. You would want to understand the primary causes of those things. Then obviously, the SWOT analysis. This one is an obvious issue, all right, where we need to just, understand what are our strengths, what are our weaknesses, what are the opportunities, and what are the threats to those opportunities, and so forth. All right, they help us to come up with risks or to see where risks are. Okay. How do we manage risk? And I have already shown you the risk management process. All right. So first of all, we need to evaluate the threat, that is the likelihood and possible outcome. Likelihood and the outcome. Then after that, we move on to the aspect of deciding which risks to take. This is based on our risk appetite. Remember, in some organizations, they are risk averse. Some risk seekers. You understand? You need to understand.
Yes.
Then we then have to manage the risk using the cost of ERM framework. We'll discuss about this shortly. Then we need to develop a plan, that is the TARA framework, and we should be able to monitor and adjust plan over time. Remember, risk is not static. It is always evolving. All right. So what you called the risk yesterday might be worse by now or might not be risk at all. So you need to continue monitoring it. Right. Then invest in risk. In mitigating risk. All right, through implementation of controls as a measure. Sometimes you cannot implement certain controls, or you cannot install certain controls, either because of the cost involved. Sometimes you need to outsource. Sometimes you need to transfer. Sometimes you just need to avoid and accept. Sometimes you need to accept it. So you should then be guided by the TARA. Inform and educate the board and employees. This could also be the measure. All right. Sometimes you should embed risk into the corporate culture. And the aspects of culture, we have already covered those ones. The aspect of training or informing the board and employees, this one, we now know that it is very, very essential. We need to ensure that our people are well trained at all costs, at all opportunities, at any opportunity. Then we should continue to monitor and update, because the risk is always evolving. Here we have finished everything. What we are now left with are the course and the talent. All right. I've spoken about this, isn't it? We've spoken about risk identification, risk assessment, although we are going to look at those terms. Those are the general processes. Risk planning. This one, risk planning. Planning involves establishing appropriate risk management policies. Policies include ceasing risky activities. Yeah, you need to stop risky activities. I heard your cries where you said, "Oh my, I won't allow my husband to participate in that dangerous, dangerous sport." So policies include ceasing risk activities through to obtaining insurance against unfavorable events. Contingency planning involves establishing procedures to recover from adverse events should they occur. So that's part of risk planning. All right. Then, but remember, I said that we would advise. In the case of those videos, if any of those guys were our husbands or wives, what we could do is to advise them, because sometimes they are bound to take the risk and we cannot stop them. So we should advise them accordingly that, okay, fine, there should be some contingency plan, all right, which involves establishing procedures to recover from adverse. Should an adverse event happens, let's say you crashed into the wall and your neck is broken, you are not dead, but you are alive, but you are injured. So you need some financial support. So you should be having some life assurance savings, medical cover, etc. in place, so that when you are doing your sporting activities, life would continue to move on smoothly. Something like that. That's type of planning advice you could give them. But you should as well emphasize that such activities are risky. They are better not taken. Risk monitoring. Risks are monitored on an ongoing basis. Please don't say we monitored them last year, so this year we should just be on rest. No. Okay? No, don't do that. Risk monitoring is an ongoing process. When risks change or new risks are identified, then those risks are added to the risk assessment for appropriate categorization and action. Okay? Now, the cost for ERM cube. All right? So you're seeing it's actually a cube. All right? So the cost of regular sprays, the relationship between objectives, these are the objectives: strategic, operations, reporting, compliance. Okay, what are the end strategic objectives? Where is it looking at? What does it want to achieve in the next 5 years? Then the nature of our operations, what are they? Are we following, divisional operations, regional operations, global, or it's just a district, a district-centered operation, or it's just an operation in a local village? So all those things we need to look at them. Then reporting, usually financial report. What are objectives and so forth? Because there could be risk again in terms of financial reporting, where there will be manipulation of those reports. After we do the operations, we consider them, but there's still risk in the way we are doing our reporting. What controls are in place to ensure that our reporting is accurate, is fair?
Okay.
Then compliance. Are we complying with the regulations that affect our operations? Are we in compliance? Remember, cost COSO is not mandatory, but it has been found to be very authoritative. All right? They are very authoritative and best practice. So you cannot ignore them. This is why we are being tested on those guidelines. All right. Now, that was the structure, the objectives part. Then organizational levels. You see, when this framework comes, or when you are considering adopting this framework, you also have to consider on which areas of the organization are you going to apply the framework. You need to decide. Entity-wide, is it entity-wide or entity level? Is it division level? Is it business unit or subsidiary level? All right, maybe at a certain branch, we just have to use this particular framework. And how are we going to apply it there? By the end of the day, the organization in spirit would want to use the framework for its whole organization, for the whole organization. But sometimes you discover that even if the whole organization has adopted this framework, there are certain subsidiaries who might be new and they might not be following the same thing. So as you be reading the scenario, you will be told where you need to actually enforce this course. There could be some problematic, subsidiaries or business units and so forth. So the framework gives us guidance in terms of how to ensure compliance if it is at subsidiary level, if it is at business unit level, if it is at division level, or an entity level. Entity level could be seen as, say, it could be a small entity, a subsidiary, or it could be the whole company. So the way the entity level here could even be at a department level. You understand? All right, for example, at a university, we have got a lot of departments. All right? There are a lot of departments at the university. Some could be even the dining hall, the DH, as an example. Okay, the dining hall is an entity on its own, separated from the account section. You understand? It's separate from the account section, it's separate from the HR and admin. But all these could be entities. So when you'll be told by the scenario which one is problematic and needs some, some attention from the course of ERM cube. Then the model has got some 8 components. These ones are usually what the examiners are interested in. Have we listed them here? Yes. The 8 components. The first one is looking for a brighter pen. The internal environment. This talks of the tone at the top, philosophy, and risk appetite. When you're talking of the tone at the top, we are simply saying that if managers at the top, if senior managers are exemplary, the rest of the workforce is likely to follow suit. Also, if we are having a certain risk appetite as managers or as senior level employees, we are likely to influence our appetite to the shop floor personnel. If we are risk averse as senior managers, obviously, our employees are also going to adopt that cost cutting, stringent cost management principles. They're also going to adopt those ones. That's the internal environment. So it also talks of what? It talks of some cultural connotations, isn't it? There are some cultural connotations. Objective setting. Here, we need to ensure goals align with the end mission. So this one is more of strategic management.
Go congruent.
Yeah, go congruent, something like that. See, go congruence. Yeah, like that. Yeah, so it shows that you're actually, paying attention, isn't it? Then event identification. We need to recognize internal and external events, positive and negatives. We should be able to do that. Right? Risk assessment. This one cannot be overemphasized because it's also part, it forms part of a large part of this exercise. So risk assessment, we need to analyze likelihood and impact of the risks, right? We should be able to assess risks or potential risks. And for it to be called an assessment, we should be able to account for the likelihood as well as the impact of that risk. So in this case, we should be able to measure. It's almost like risk measurement. Risk measurement is part of risk assessment. All right. Risk assessment is the wider activity, the wider scope of the risk measurement activity. So this is why we normally see the term risk assessment being common. But in risk assessment, there is what is called the risk measurement, where we are now quantifying the levels. We're now being specific to a particular risk to say, in terms of financial impact, how much does it cost? Yes, we are saying that, driving a motor scooter without a helmet or driving, a motorcycle without a helmet is risky. But risky by how much? That's a risk measurement. Are we together? But a risk assessment tells us that, yeah, there is high potential that there could be an accident and this is risky. But when we talk of risk measurement, we are simply saying that we are getting deeper into the risk to understand all the nuances associated with the particular risk. Are we together, madam?
Yes.
You are not listening, I know.
I'm listening. I'm also doing it.
I'm not thinking, maybe you have hidden your face.
You're not seeing me.
Serious, I'm not.
So you still not seeing me.
All right, yeah, now I can see you now.
Oh, then I twist a phone good in the small print.
Okay, I can see you now.
Okay.
All right, now there's what is called a risk response. This is choosing to avoid, reduce, share, or accept the risk. Remember the TARA framework. Are we together?
Yes.
And what is R? R is reduce. What is share? To share is like to transfer, isn't it?
Yes.
Remember, the TARA is going to transfer, not share, but transfer, right? So share there could be the TARA, the transfer, to transfer. Because when we approach insurance companies, we are trying to transfer the risk or to share with them. What of control activities? These are the specific activities at the company right? The policies to ensure responses are carried out, or the controls in place to ensure that the risks are minimized. You understand? Then information and communication. Here, these are the systems which we use to capture and share data timely. So, when you're analyzing a scenario, you would be told of the state of their information assets, where they'll tell you that their ICT service provider has been on strike and so forth. So there were days when the service was erratic and so forth, or intermittent, all those things. When you'll be analyzing, you will be able to understand if the organization's risk management is solid. Is that clear, madam?
Yes.
Okay, now the last part, monitoring. We cannot emphasize or re-emphasize or overemphasize this point. Ongoing evaluation should be done. Ongoing evaluation of the entire ERM process. But now, let us break this down. Enterprise risk management process is integrated. It's enterprise-wide. Enterprise, we are looking at the whole organization. So the principles of the value chain cannot be divorced away. Is that clear, madam?
Yes.
So we are looking at the HR department, we're looking at the production, the finance, the procurement, everybody, the ICT, everybody is involved. So we are looking, the ERM is looking at risk from an integrative perspective.
Okay.
End-to-end, or the whole organization is involved. Is that clear?
Yes.
That's great. That's great, madam. I think we have spent much time on this one. Now, remember, we had an objective where we were made to have a distinction on risks which are strategic and operational. So, strategic risks. These are risks which are a responsibility of the board. They are matters reserved for the board. For example, significant acquisitions. Acquisitions, we're talking of companies acquiring other companies, or disposals of certain companies. Capital projects, these ones are projects for non-current assets, all right? Or even big projects, all right? And treasury policies, which have to be decided at board level. Treasury policies, when we talk of treasury, we normally talk of foreign
money,
forex, forex dealings, all right, cash management, working capital management, policies, etc., right? Foreign currency risks, all right, interest rate risks management, something like that, financial risk management. Then we need to have what is called a balanced board. Governance reports recommend a balance of skills, experience to ensure a breadth of vision when assessing environmental threats. So here we are simply saying that the composition of the board itself is a risk issue. So when you'll be reading the scenario and you are told that the board members are actually relatives or, you know,
Childhood friends,
you
just like the
understand?
first.
Yeah. So you can see that that board is not balanced. It's not a balanced board. Okay. So we need to have people of various perspectives, mingling for the same goal or fighting for the same goal, something like that. That's a balanced. So diversity is advocated. Then there are what are called strategic errors. Strategic errors, these could be in two folds. There is what is called go errors, that is pursuing an opportunity where losses eventually exceed returns. So there was a go error. This is an important terminology in your answer. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Or a stop error. Stop errors. That's failing to pursue a viable opportunity, allowing competitors to gain a market advantage. Sometimes you procrastinated, or sometimes you just advise people out of fear that, oh, please, we must not do that. Then when they failed to do that, they ended up suffering. There was a heavy opportunity cost.
Okay.
Is that clear?
Yes.
Great. Now, operational risks, risk frequency and impact. Remember, there is what we call a 2x2 matrix for risk assessment. Where, okay, from our definition, we say that we need to analyze the probability and the impact. Okay, so on one end of the graph, we should be worried about how often, what is the probability that something is going to happen, and what is the impact. The impact could be the dollars which we are going to lose. Okay, so this is often high, this one will be low, and this is high, right? Why is it low? Because normally that's where we put our zero, isn't it? So,
yes.
So we need to ask ourselves, if the risk is at A and another risk is at B, another one is at C on the graph, which one is the risk event? Let us say these are event A, event B, event C. Which one is a high risk, high impact event?
Hello?
Which one is a high risk, high impact event?
C.
Yes, it's C, because, in terms of impact, it is actually high, and in terms of the probability, Then there's also, what about event D?
D is high impact but low risk.
But low
risk?
Not low risk, but low probability. Remember, this is the probability.
Yes. Sorry. Probability
So in terms of occurrence, there is low potential that D is going to happen. But when it happens, kuno chema.
It has an higher impact in.
You understand? The y-axis is the probability.
Okay.
All right. So for risk management purposes, risk events like D have to be insured. Why do we have to insure? You see, usually things which are insured do not always happen. For example, accidents, they do not happen very frequently. Death doesn't always happen. Yes, we know people are dying every day, but in the eyes of the insurer, they do not happen. They do not always happen. Also, insurers believe that such events will happen after they have recouped the cost of their investments. That's their belief. This is why when you buy an insurance policy, normally you are given some period before you start to earn anything. For example, 3 months. If you join EcoSure today, they'll say you're not going to claim anything until the expire of 3 months. Right? And they also believe that even after 3 months, you will still be alive.
For another 3 months.
For other 3 months, or even 3 years, or even, until maybe they wind up their operations. So events like D are normally insured. Why? Because their probability of occurring is very low, even if they can induce high impact.
Okay.
All right. So the notes are saying low probability, high impact. All right. So low probability, high impact, for example, D, often managed via insurance or contingency planning. We talked of contingency planning, right? Where we say that we just have to have some plan B. We need to have some plan B in place. If something happens, we'll be able to rise up again. Then controls are designed to prevent occurrence. So in this situation, there are a lot of controls to prevent something to happen. For example, even if your company is insured that premises of theirs, there are a lot of people manning that premises. For example, there are security guards. There is also a check officer. This particular person, it's a recent post these days, right? Check. The guys, they also ensure that, when you leave your premises, the lights are turned off, computers are down, fire extinguishers are always serviceable. The risk for fire are actually minimal. All right. So even if there is an insurance, is another option. You see, there are a lot of controls in place to ensure that this event D happens. So there are a lot of controls in place which are designed to prevent an occurrence. This is why we say that it is a low probability, high impact event. Then there is this high probability, low impact. For example, we can put event E. Event E is high probability, but low impact. Because you can see it's still here, you know, so there is low impact. All right? These are small risks that occur frequently. For example, minor shoplifting. I've shown you a video of a guy stealing something, right?
A bag.
Those events, if you enter into the CBD now, are always going to happen, isn't it?
Yes.
They are very, very frequent, but minor things, handbags, or shoplifting, etc. So they are managed via detection and correction controls. What is a detection control? What do you understand by
detection.
Hmm?
It detects it detects a fault as it happens.
Yes. For example, CCTVs,
Mm.
in a sense, they can help
Yes.
you detect the culprit. And corrective controls, these ones are controls which are there to ensure that the anomaly is rectified.
Mm. It's
Yeah, you
after.
understand? Yeah,
Mm.
something that can be done to control the situation, some disciplinary action, etc. You understand?
Mm.
It's a control, it's a correction, it's a corrective control.
Okay.
Okay, now let's talk of risk appetite and policy. Risk appetite is the amount of risk an organization is willing to accept in pursuit of value. That's the official definition, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we've deliberated about this to say that when we are looking at risk appetite, we are simply looking at that risk an organization is willing to accept. So there might be a risk that is worth 1 million. Perhaps you want to acquire another company, but we can say, according to our investment policy, we cannot take that risk or a risk that is above 300,000 unless we have got approval at AGM. Let me take a call.
Okay.
Hello, Mama. And all right, guys, Moshe, it's okay. We'll do it together. All right, it's okay. Have a good day. Have a good day. Oh, depend on now. Depend on now. What? It's okay. Just let try to lunch. It's okay. It's okay. Yeah. Mm. I'm sorry for that.
No, it's okay.
All right.
Yes.
Okay. Now, so hello.
Yes, I'm here.
All right. That's fine. So, I was talking of the risk appetite to say, there are certain, it actually gives us the demarcations to which we can accept a risk. Although this could also involve certain approval stages, some thresholds cannot be, surpassed without certain approvals. Right? For example, if you want to procure things above 300,000, you just need, you know, approval at AGM. Or
Okay.
sometimes you need approval at board level.
Mm.
All those things, certain thresholds have to apply. Or sometimes you are not at all going to be allowed to do that just from company policy. So you need to understand the risk appetite of the company. What is their views towards risk? Are they risk seekers or risk averse? Risk averse. All right. So we talked about these risk seekers. These ones have got a policy that is willing to take high risks for high return. And usually it is common in startups and tech companies, technology companies. Then risk others, these ones prioritize security, okay, and stability, typically in charities or the public sector. That's where this idea or this philosophy takes precedence. Then policy impact. The board's appetite dictates the risk policy. For example, a risk-averse board will set lower trigger points for management intervention and invest more in insurance. All right. So these are just examples where you could, apply these risk appetites perspectives. Are we a risk seeker? Are we a risk averse? So in terms of the ACCA SBL module or examination, you should be guided with the scenario that will give you the idea as to whether they are risk averse or a risk seeker risk seeking company. All right. Now, the dynamic nature of risk. Like I told you, a risk is dynamic. It is not static. It evolves based on several factors. Number one. So, like I said, maybe last year there was this particular risk of shoplifting, but now because the company now has got well censored, a variety of sensors installed in the stores or every store, which means people can no longer do shoplifting because the moment you try to come out of the door,
the sensors go off.
Yeah, or the door will not open for you. Like, for example, in South African shops, in South Africa, especially those clothing shops, you cannot leave out the shop with a grace or something that has not been paid for because the sensors there will close the door for you before you. So risk is not static. All right, it evolves. So what was a risk yesterday might not be a risk anymore. Right? But these are the factors which could affect the evolvement of risk. The size of the company. Larger organizations face more complex regulatory and reputational risks. All right? So the size of the company itself is going to ensure that maybe what was once a small risk is now a bigger. It might happen. The industry itself, for example, a mining company has higher health and safety risks than a software firm. So you need to understand the scenario. Is it a mining company? Is it a high-tech company? And so forth. What type of risks are they associated with? All right. So you cannot talk of health and safety risks at a software firm. All right. But at a company firm, at a mining company, yes, that one could be considered a higher risk. Right? But at a software firm, maybe the higher risk there could be issues to do with
risks.
Hello?
Technological risks.
Yes. For example, we'll be talking of intellectual property or patents, patent risk, right? Or data breaches. This could be for tech companies. You understand? Now, development. The development of the company itself, at what stage of development are they? For example, a startup faces high entrepreneurial risk when they will be fighting for survival because there's still a new company and the market is clogged, there is more, is under high concentration. The market is not competitive. There are so many suppliers. So for a tech company to survive in that market, oh my God, it needs to have some magic. While a mature firm faces obsolescence risk, this is the main risk which they face, but not survival, but obsolescence. Obsolescence risk, we're talking about the issues where their technology might be becoming useless.
Outdated.
Or outdated, yes. Now, here we tabled the aspect of risk assessment and risk measurement, and we have already discussed that this is actually a key of this matter. All right. Risk assessment is the stage in the risk management process. Remember the stages of risk management I have shown you. We talked of identification, risk assessment. You still remember that one? Good.
Yes.
We don't have a stage called risk measurement, no. But if you look at our syllabus, the examiner is actually separated the two. There is risk identification, risk assessment, and risk measurement, which means, but when I tried to search around to understand, I discovered that risk measurement is actually part of risk assessment.
Okay.
Risk assessment is the stage in the risk management process where identified risks are examined to understand their nature, their causes, and their potential consequences, allowing the board to prioritize them against the organization's risk appetite. Whereas risk management is the quantitative or qualitative process of determining the size of a risk to prioritize management's actions. It moves beyond just knowing a risk exists to understanding its potential impact on the organization's objective. So you could see that this is still part of risk assessment. Okay? Now, when we are looking at these guys, this table is going to help us. The primary goal of risk assessment is to understand the nature of the risk. Risk measurement is to determine the size of the risk.
Okay.
The output. Risk assessment gives a description of the risk and its source. Cybersecurity risk due to remote work. Risk measurement tells us a score of value. Example, 70% probability or 2 million potential loss.
Okay.
The methods. Risk assessment focuses on the context. How does this risk align with our risk appetite? The focus here would be on the data. What do the heat maps and expected values show? For the SBL framework, frameworks commonly used as part of risk assessment, the PESTEL analysis, the SWOT, etc., to find the risks. Remember when we talked of risk identification and so forth. Now, when it comes to risk assessment, we also have to employ these. Okay? Now, when we now move a step further into risk measurement, we will then use the TAR framework and probability impact matrices to rank them. Now, the TAR. Risk is measured as, like I said, it's like a process of going back and forth. Risk is measured by evaluating two primary variables, the impact. Remember our graph,
Mm-hmm.
the impact or the severity. This is the extent of the damage, financial, reputational, and operational, if the risk occurs. The likelihood or probability. This is the statistical chance of frequency of the risk manifesting. How likely is it going to happen? Yes, we understand that when it happens, there is going to be a large loss. But how likely is it going to happen? How do we do our risk measurement? Qualitatively, we can use what are called risk heat maps. Please know this. This is when we are plotting risks on a matrix low to high. This helps the board to visualize which risks are in the unacceptable zone. Remember, the heat map will be like this. This is the probability. Remember the probability, the impact. This is why I say that this topic is a back and forth topic. We go ahead, we go backwards. All right, so this is our graph. We're constructing a heat map, and this is the heat map we are talking about. So this is too low. I mean, this is too high. This is low. This is high. All right. So for low, we might be using a certain color, right? Maybe up to this point, because we are told that there will be some colorings. Then for say medium, might be using lines. These are medium areas, medium risks. Then for the high risks, you might decide to put some big zeros. All right. So I don't have different colors, but I do have them. But I forgot that I have got those colors. So I just want you to visualize this way. So this is a heat map. So we are being told that the risks which are in this particular zone, these are going to be somehow unacceptable. Is that clear? So this shows this is a qualitative measure, right? It's a qualitative measure. Qualitative we are just judging by what we see with our eyes. We are not using any figures. Is that clear? You can also use what are called risk registers, which are a formal document listing the measured score of each risk, each owner, and the current status of controls. It is also a qualitative measure, right? Where we know that, okay, fine, this one is a procurement risk, all right, they're doing this, the risk description, the status of the risk, it's qualitative. But when you are now figurative, we do what is called quantitative measurement. Here we'll be using expected values, which is a calculation of probability times financial impact, right? Like for example, 30% times 1 million. So it means that the risk is worth 300,000. We're going to lose 300,000. There's 30% probability that is going to happen. And when it happens, we're going to lose 1 million. So the financial impact is 300,000.
Okay.
Then that's an expected value. Sensitivity analysis, this one is changing one variable to just say, okay, fine, what if something happens? What is going to be the outcome? So we are analyzing scenarios based on a change in one of the variables included. For example, what if we are expecting 500,000 customers? What if customers have become 200,000? Are we going to survive? something like that. Value at risk. This one is advanced statistical computation, where we are measuring the maximum potential loss of a specific time period with a given confidence level. The aspect of confidence level is that statistics, isn't it? For example, at a 95% chance, there is a 95% chance that losses won't exceed 1 million. This 95% is our confidence level. We are 95% confident that something, a 1 million loss might happen. Okay. Now, like I told you, it's a back and forth aspect, right? This is still the same graph which we drew a few minutes ago. It's still the same graph. These are the impact, the consequence. Remember, this is still the same graph. Okay, let me just try it.
Okay. Yeah.
It's still the same graph.
Yeah.
You understand? The probability, you understand, this is the zero, that is the low. And on top here, this is the high. And this is the high impact. But now, it is called a risk map. You need to understand what you'll be doing if, remember, our plottings, we had A, which was somewhere here at a lower, okay? We had a D somewhere there. And we had also some E, which was, okay? You still remember that? Then there was a C.
And the B in the middle.
All right, a B maybe was somewhere in the middle there. You understand? You still remember that? So the Tara framework is telling us that if the risk event is D, or where the impact is high but the probability is low, you need to transfer.
Transfer risk.
Yeah. Then when we talked of E, we said that these ones are frequent events, but their impact is very low, like, for example, shoplifting. So you can reduce that. What you need to do is just to reduce, maybe through the use of technology, right? Detective controls or correctional. You understand? We reduce. But now, see now, these are high impact and very frequent. They always happen, but you need to avoid those risks. For example, if there is a risk of fire, please hire a shake officer. There is a risk of accidents. They always happen. It's a mining company. You need a shake officer to always be there, all right? Or you just have to cease the operation. If you are doing, underground mining, then you should close that one. If there is a risk that the mining shafts are always going to fall, so you just have to do open cast mining. So you need to avoid the aspect of shaft mining and go for open cast. Or if you are running without a shake officer, you need to hire one so that you avoid that risk, because sometimes you just need a shake officer. So to avoid that risk, you need to hire a shake. Is that clear?
Yes.
Yeah. Sometimes you just have to accept the risk. Yeah, you need to accept it. Why? Because the probability that it is going to happen is very low. And when it happens, the impact again is very low. So just accept that one. Accept it. Give me an example of of a situation where the risk could be at A could be accepted. Let's say the company is a supermarket.
The risk of having breakages
Yeah.
in the aisle.
Yes. Breakages actually an example of a law. But when those breakages become, when the impact, sometimes you would have the whole truckload of sugar under breakages.
No, I mean when it's on the aisles, the probability of clients breaking.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Clients are always careful people, but sometimes they break things, right? But that one is not always going to happen, isn't it? That's fine. I'm sure we are done on this part. So that's a risk map. Now, this is now a risk map with a combination of risk measurement. All right. Where there is some quantification. It is now a 5x5 map. Why are we saying 5x5? We are simply saying, you see, the likelihood now, the likelihood has now been measured not only by colors, but also by numbers. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this part is only found by 2 multiplied by 2. You get a 4, isn't it? And that part again is 2 multiplied by 3. Get a 6. All right. What about this part?
That one, oh, it's not 4 by 2.
Hello?
That one, I don't know, because it's, if you say 4 by 2, it's supposed to give you 8, not 7.
This one should be an error.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Should be an error, because it should be, mathematically proven.
Okay.
You understand? Yeah.
Yeah.
2 multiplied by 5, that's 10. So come here, 3 multiplied by 2, that's 6. 3 multiplied by 3, that's 9. 3 multiplied by 4, that's 12. 3 multiplied by 5, that's 15. Are we together? Great.
Yes.
Okay, so the heat map also gives us the ranges in terms of the probabilities that something was going to happen. Also, I want you to take notice that the likelihood is the probability.
Okay.
In my earlier graphs, the probability was on the y-axis.
The y-axis.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter y-axis or x-axis, but you just have to know that there should be probability and impact. All right?
Okay.
Great. We've spoken about these heat maps. Please just always remember probability multiplied by impact for you to get the risk score.
Okay.
Now, there is an aspect of corporate governance we need to ensure whenever we look at risk. All right. So effective risk management is a cornerstone of good governance. This is supported by the UK Tenable report. The OECD principles also speak of the same. So the OECD principles says that we need to ensure shareholder rights, equitable treatment, and transparency. This is also part which is essential when we look at risk management. And remember, this is a rich ground for the examination, because you'll be given a scenario where shareholders sometimes they are not considered, their views are not considered, and so forth. because maybe the company is under some political exposure, etc. All these have to be considered in your analysis. Equitable treatment of shareholders. Some shareholders are given maybe the majority are given more EA than others, than the minors. Then there is no transparency. Remember, the ERM talked of reporting. We talked of reporting when we looked at the ERM model. So reporting, we want transparency of the processes. So the reporting itself should be accurate. The internal controls, there should be sound systems to decrease the impact of risks and prevent fraud. This could not be overemphasized. Then lastly, board responsibility. The board must provide strategic guidance and ensure the company does not operate outside its risk appetite. Do not operate outside a risk appetite. Risk registered, we talked about those ones. No need to mention that or to discuss them. So these are the risk mitigation techniques we should consider, ladies and gentlemen. We need to, when we're talking of mitigation, we are simply saying these are the measures which could be taken to reduce the risk, to an appropriately low level. Remember, you cannot eliminate the risk totally. You cannot eliminate the risk totally, but you can reduce it to manageable proportions, to the level where you will be ready to accept the risk. So we need to embed the risk into the organizational culture. We talked about this. We should employ the ERM framework. We should apply risk management strategies, the transfer, avoid, reduce, accept framework. Do not also forget heat maps, risk registers, they have to be maintained. There should be a risk committee, largely manned by NEDs. And what are NEDs? Hello? Hello?
Yeah, Frisa.
What are NEDs?
Sorry? And non-executive directors.
Yes, they should be occupiers of the risk committee. But sometimes an executive would be required, and
yes,
there could be one or two executives in that. Remember, these executives are needed by the committee for their specialist advice, or even secretariat. Remember, a risk officer should be an employee of the company, or risk manager should be an employee of the company, but he would be servicing the committee as a secretary or something else, like something like that, as an expert for the committee. Okay. All right. Now, a risk manager should also be hired to minimize the risk of poor risk management. So we need a risk manager, right? In our, I've sent you the slides where most of these things are discussed, right? You read more about the risk manager and the risk committee. All right.
Okay.
We cannot end even the risk audits, but here we are just giving you an overview. A risk audit is necessary because risk itself has to be audited. Okay, so this is the audit of risk. So risk management has to be audited. Audit of risk management and controls to mitigate the risk. That's a risk audit. And it can be done by external auditors or internal auditors. Is that clear?
Okay.
And the process would involve that process which I showed you, where we'll be looking at, oh my God, where can I write? Am I going to be, where can I write? All right, we'll be looking at a risk identification. Oh, it's not even clear. Where can I write here? I think I can write here. All right, so we'll be looking at risk identification as the first process. We'll also be looking at risk assessment. So the auditors, when they come, they would want to know your risk identification potential or efficiency. All right, are you doing that? Are you able? Do you have people who can identify risks? And which risks have you identified? Which risks have you actually put in your risk register? That's what they will be doing. Then risk assessment. How qualified are you to assess risk? Or how efficient are you to assess risk? That's the risk audit process. Then the control evaluation. How effective are your controls? Are they working as intended, or they're just, some of those controls? Lastly, they have to report. They create a report. So that's what the risk audit process is all about. So sometimes you might be asked by the examiner to say, there is a director at this particular company who's worried of or who's concerned about an issue which was raised during a board meeting, that there is need for a risk audit to be taken or to be considered. There's a risk. It's not a risk audit. Okay, there is need for a risk audit to be taken, and they want to know the processes involved so that they might proceed with the idea of hiring one or ensuring that the company undergoes such an audit. Can you tell us what is involved? That's the procedure. That's the process which we have. Okay. This audit involves the audit of the entity's risk identification, risk assessment, controls, and then reporting. Something like that. Anyway, much of the details are in the notes which I have sent to you. Any questions on this aspect, Madam?
No.
No questions?
No.
All right. So I think we wanted to talk about a situation. I think just 5 minutes only. About the exam structure itself. Hello?
Yes. Your screen is okay.
Hello?
Yes.
All right. Let us talk about this. Usually in your examination, you'll be asked to assess risk and mitigation activities. Right? And we've given you the aspects of risk assessment and also risk mitigation. We've spoken about this at length. Then you might also be asked about identifying risks associated with a plan and identify their impact and suggest mitigation. So that's, you see, the examiner would require you to do those things. And like I said, it's not a hard and fast thing that you should approach the question this way or that. You just have to lead yourself. But have an open mind.
Okay.
This is an extract of a past exam question. Students were required to draft an email response which the CFO can send to the risk manager. So the CFO might approach you and ask for an email for them. You'll be asked to draft an email for them so that they can send it to the risk manager, which, number one, discusses the dynamic nature of the company's principal risks and assess the potential consequences of these risks for the company. So when we're talking of consequences, we are talking of impacts. You understand? The financial impacts, the reputational impact, all those things. Now,
Okay.
when you are discussing the dynamic nature of risk, we mentioned that do not forget that, monitoring of those risks is an ongoing process. So you need to identify those. But I'm saying, after you have identified those risks, okay, do not simply pick a risk. Because if you simply identify a risk without discussing towards, the dynamic nature simply says that risks are not static. They evolve. Like, for example, when you were reading the scenario, there was a risk of what? Of shoplifting. Okay? There was a risk of shoplifting. But now, this shoplifting has actually graduated into robbery. Are we together? So the risks were not static, were evolving. Sometimes it was an issue of, the aspect of, let's say, when it comes to ICT issues, maybe password credentials theft, where employees could use each other's passwords to enter into each other's accounts. But now, this is developed through, fraud. So the risks have been dynamic. There were simple risks initially, but now they're now complicated, they're now complex. So what is required in your discussion is to mention that there is need to monitor these risks on a continuous basis. That's discussing the dynamic nature of the principal risks. So the reason why I'm saying you need to identify the risks because the examiner is talking about the certain risks which are principal. Principal means key risks. So which are they? You cannot just talk of ongoing monitoring of unknown risks. You need to be able to pinpoint this company is faced with these principal risks. Then you list those risks and why you are saying they're principal risks.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yes.
That's the idea. Then you need to assess the potential. So you need to be very, very organized because when you're talking of the potential, we need to look at the financial impacts, reputational, all those things. If they happen, is that clear? Then there would be some 4 marks for professional presentation if your arguments actually flowing professionally, you are highly likely to earn all the 4 months.
Okay.
This is the last one, which we can discuss again. The student was required to prepare a report for the chief executive, which evaluates the assessment made of each risk and its potential impacts. When you are evaluating the assessment made or which has already been done by somebody, you are actually checking somebody's work. Was the assessment adequate? Was it covering everything? Was it right? Is the risk which the assessment is saying was a risk actually a risk? Sometimes they might say it's a risk when it is actually not a risk, or they might say it is a high risk when it is actually a low risk. So you need to be able to have some skepticism to question things and come up with your own conclusions. Then you need to be able to evaluate the adequacy of risk mitigating activities. And we've discussed of these risk mitigating activities which should be done for each risk. Was the mitigating activity proposed adequate enough?
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Then here, this report of yours should be able to recommend any further mitigating activities which could be required. Also, share also examiner would want to know. Apart from that, you must be able to come up with your own. Remember, you'll be tested on innovativeness or problem solving, isn't it? Then, lastly, your professional marks. You can earn them as easily as possible. So, I think we've done justice to this presentation. Madam, do you have any questions?
No. Maybe for my exams I always write a report. Is there like a standard format or nye email you should highlight the two from subjects? Is that necessary? Kana kuti urongotanga in the main?
Yes, it's very, very, very necessary. A report should be structured as a report, and please you revisit your modules on that, on report writing. They are there, even in some of the textbooks. There is report writing structures for the ACCA SBL. Even using past exam papers, you would see the examiner would be showing those reports in the standards in which they expect them to be. So please follow that standard, because professional marks are going to be earned when you follow professional practices.
Okay.
Is that okay, Otilia? Can you allow me to go now?
Yes.
Do not forget my balance.
Okay, not a problem. I'm sending it right
All
now.
right. Have a nice day. Bye.
Okay, same to you. Bye-bye.